Does your bike need springs? Spoiler alert, the answer is probably no. Welcome back, friends. Happy Monday. I was going to wear the second new Twisted Toucan shirt today, but there's just a lot going on. I've got ribs on the Traeger that I got to keep an eye on, and there just wasn't time, so you're just going to have to wait. I will let you in on a little preview. It's called Hold My Lemur. You know, as opposed to Hold My Beer, Hold My Lemur. It's really freaking bright. The sun has not been out like all day, and I wanted to wait until it was sunny, but now all of a sudden it's too sunny. So, sorry. So Surly, their blog, some of you probably read, I hope you do, they're always entertaining. They had a guest blogger last week who basically threw down the gauntlet on mountain bike suspension. Now, I know for a lot of you, this may not seem like it applies, but it struck a chord with me because it's something that I've been talking about for over a decade. When I started riding mountain bikes, one, nobody really knew what a mountain bike was, and they didn't have suspension of any kind. I normally would say it was because it hadn't been invented yet. That's probably not accurate. It just wasn't widely available yet. The first suspension fork I ever had was a Scott Unishock, I think is that what they called it? I think they called it a Unishock. I'll try to find a picture of it. And as you might imagine, it was pretty horrible, but we didn't really have anything to compare it to. And then soon thereafter, RockShox got their product to market, and it became a lot more widespread and available. But I learned how to mountain bike. Well, learned. I was never that great. But my first mountain bike riding experience came on bikes that did not have suspension. And when you do it that way, you know, there also weren't any built mountain bike trails. We were riding deer paths and natural fall lines, and it was pretty horrible. But again, we didn't have anything to compare it to. So what it forced you to do was learn how to ride the terrain that you were on. You had to pick the best line or the correct line, or you were going to get your fillings rattled out, or you were going to get bucked off the bike. One of the two, both of which happened. Well, I didn't get my fillings rattled out, but you know what I mean. The thrust of this blog post was that most people that are buying mountain bikes, especially at the entry level, those bikes never see the dirt, which is correct. So why do they have suspension forks on them? Well, they have suspension forks on them because people now expect that bikes are going to have suspension forks. It doesn't make it right, but generally what it takes is one of the big companies to say, you know what, we're going to do this bicycle, and we know how it's being used, therefore we're going to set it up that way. But they never do that because they're afraid that they're going to compare it. You know, that Trek is going to get compared to that Specialized, Giant, Fuji, whatever, and that nobody is going to buy that Trek because it doesn't have a suspension fork on it. It's this crazy cyclical, never-ending loop, and I don't know that it's ever going to end, but it's an interesting read. I think he's got it right. Those bikes never see the dirt. They don't need suspension. Suspension adds, it decreases the longevity of the bike because those forks are going to seize up and stop working, and therefore the bike's not going to get used anymore, or it's going to get thrown away. And if it's a full suspension bike, God forbid, it adds an untold amount of maintenance to keep the bike working properly, which people generally aren't going to do. Therefore, the bike's not going to get used. And it just goes around and around and around and around. So I would say if you haven't read it already, go to the Surly blog, check it out, and then in the comments, let me know what you think. Before you start typing, I understand that there are people out there that love their suspension bikes. They love their full suspension bikes. They ride that bike gets strictly ridden on mountain bike trails. This is not what I'm talking about. Okay? Before you leave your very well thought out and respectful comment. I'm sorry that I'm squinting. I probably should have done this before it got super bright out here, but them's the way the things worked out. I hope you're all doing well. Thanks for watching. I hope something good happens to you today.